What can you learn from the recent New Zealand property crash? Like, why did suburbs like Auckland, Wellington and loads of Kiwi neighbourhoods drop over 20%? And what does that mean for us in Australia?
Hundreds of South Auckland property owners are selling because of financial pressure, and many are having to take a loss, with some even, wait for it, fleeing to Australia and leaving their debt behind.
In today's episode of That Property Roast, we're diving into 4 big angles. Number 1, New Zealand's suburb-level price carnage and its sluggish economy. Number 2, Kiwi investors are bailing out and coming to Australia. Number 3, why Australia dodged the same mistakes. And number 4, my straight-talking advice for New Zealand property owners and how to dig yourself out of this mess. So guys, stick around, especially for my Kiwi folks that are watching from New Zealand at the moment, because I know a lot of you are watching this. Shout out to all my Polynesian fans.
Kia ora. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Because the difference between losing and winning here is simply knowledge. Firstly, guys, let's look at the New Zealand crash breakdown and which suburbs took it hard. Like, what I'm trying to say is New Zealand's crash wasn't just some broad brush fade. Like, I'm talking about, if you saw the news,
Those guys that were last in on the party, you know, it's the guys that bought at the peak and often first home buyers. So they're buying at 10% deposit on a $1 million house, a lot of them. And over the last year or so, we've seen those valuations just come right back to the point where they've got no equity in it, you know.
it's basically a suburb-level carnage. According to CoreLogic, or also known as Cotality, found 71% of the suburbs in New Zealand dropped in value since mid-2024, with 175 suburbs down more than 2% in just 3 months. But here's the knockout punch, guys. These are the 5 worst performing suburbs in New Zealand at the moment. Number 1, Northland Wellington. It went down from 30.6% from its peak. Like, we're talking about the median value slumped from $1.42 million all the way down to $985,000. The next suburb on the list is East Tamaki in Auckland. It went down by 6.9% in a single quarter. Third suburb is North Park in Auckland. In the last 3 months, according to the data, it went down by 6.6%. And then fourth is Somerville in Auckland. It went down by 6.3%. And then fifth on the list is Takapawahia. Can't pronounce it, but it's in Paroia. And also can't pronounce that as well, but I'll show up the suburbs on the screen because I'm not a Kiwi. But basically this area in New Zealand is from the outskirts of Wellington. This suburb alone is falling roughly by 5.4% per annum. And for guys who are watching this and go, oh Q, that's just a correction in the New Zealand market. Nah mate, this isn't a small scale fluctuation. It's a full scale correction, guys. And meanwhile, national values are now 14.1% below the 2021 peak. And in terms of sales turnover, it's off by 4.8%. And right now, unsold listings hover around 32,700 homes. That is doubling the 2021 level. Like, this suburb level carnage can simply be described by this formula. Slow economy plus supply glut equals brutal reset. And according from Sharon Zona, the ANZ New Zealand chief economist, she said, quote, "This is a necessary correction. Prices have moved too far from incomes, and the reset is bringing back housing back into the realms of affordability for more New Zealanders," end quote. But to counter that, Tony Alexander from Independent Economist says, quote, "Calling this as a win for affordability ignores the destruction of wealth for everyday Kiwis. And for many, it's a setback that will take a decade to recover from," end quote. So guys, this is my take from this data. New Zealand delivered a brutal reality check. Whilst their affordability improved, the median multiple slashed from 11.2% to 7.7%. And the mortgage service ratio went down from 50% to 35% of income. And right now you're scratching your head and go, hey, what are all these numbers, Q? In layman terms, it just means New Zealand's current property market is in a very bad state. But compared to Australia over here, our bubble is still inflating. And we're still going strong. And this is where it leads me to the part of the video where I talk about where did other smart Kiwi investors go when their suburbs tanked. In this second part of the video, I'm going to talk about New Zealand investors, some investors that I've helped that have already jumped ship and flocking to Australia to build their property portfolio here instead. Like in the last 2 years, I've been speaking to very smart Kiwis that saw the sign earlier, right? They saw that their Auckland portfolio has tanked 20%. Some of them have chosen to sell, and some of them have chosen to just freeze and do nothing. And for those that didn't choose to freeze and do nothing, they chose to cross the Tasman Sea and pour into Australian suburbs. Like, for example, let me give you some case studies, right? Because I've worked with heaps, because obviously I'm on TikTok, I'm on social media. The Polynesian community loves me because I see a lot of comments from my Kiwi mates over there. And this is a real example from a client that watched my video and became my client. Her name's Emma. She's a software engineer from Wellington. In 2023, she relocated to Brisbane. And then she bought a property in Wollongabba. Can't pronounce it, but this is a suburb. That property she bought in 2023, as we've valued it as of today, when we do our annual review for her home loan and her property, it went up by 15%. Whilst her ex-Auckland townhouse, it lost 22%. And she's so glad she sold back then. Then I have another client, Tom, a Christchurch nurse. He bought a property in Perth's Melville. Can't pronounce it again, but this is a suburb. He also did this in 2023. This property went up by 12%. And luckily, he saw one of the properties that are listed in the 5 worst suburbs because it went down by 23%. Now, according to Kelvin Davison, he's a chief economist from New Zealand CoreLogic. He says, quote, "It's no surprise some Kiwi investors are looking offshore. The combination of softening prices and tighter domestic policy has made Australian property look more appealing," end quote. But to offer an opposing view, so I can give you both sides of the coin, against that rhetoric, Ashley Church, a New Zealand property commentator, has said, quote, "Running to Australia ignores the fact that every market moves in cycles, and the risk is buying at the top of their cycle while selling at the bottom of ours," end quote. So guys, this is my take, right? These data here aren't fictional. They're patterns I see weekly. And what these Kiwis, like these case studies that I've shown just then, what they're doing is they're working in Australia instead of New Zealand, which means they bag more income. And instead of holding all their properties in New Zealand, they're hedging their risk in Australia, just in cases that this happens, the New Zealand property crash. And honestly, in hindsight, when they told me this in 2023, I was like, maybe you're doing the right thing, maybe not, because I can't provide financial advice. But in hindsight, I think they made the right play. Which right now, it raises the big question that you've all been waiting for me to answer in this video. Why hasn't Australia suffered the same fate as New Zealand? In this third part of the video, I'm going to talk about why Australia is still strong and it didn't make the same mistake as New Zealand's property market did. Because you see guys, New Zealand's property market tanked because they pulled the rug on foreign property investors, like they hard imposed on foreign buyer bans. They temporarily removed tax perks for investors. And they extended this thing called the bright line test. Now, for you Aussies that are watching this, you're thinking, hey Q, what the hell is a bright line test? Is that like some shit that you get pulled over by the cops at a long weekend public holiday? No, guys, that's a breathalyzer test, right? The bright line test is, I'm going to read it over here and I'll print this up. The New Zealand bright line test is a tax on the profits made when buying and selling property within 2 years. On July 2024, the test was reduced down from 2 years from 10 years. And before that, it was 5 years, right? Now, all properties, regardless of when they were bought or sold, are subject to the 2-year bright line test. Now, honestly, between me and you, the person that designed the bright line test is not actually bright at all. And worst of all, their central bank, which is RBNZ, which is our version of RBA, they were atrocious at their cash policy. For example, I'll throw it over here. In October 2021, the official cash rate in New Zealand was 0.25%. But in May 2023, the RBNZ had jacked it up to 5.5%. That is the fastest hiking cycle in New Zealand's modern history. That's a 5.2% jump in 19 months. To give you an example, like in 2021, when the Kiwi investors were on 2.3%, they were paying something around $2,300 a month in mortgage repayments. But in 2023, it rose from 2.3 to 6.5%. Now the interest repayment is $3,800 a month. That's approximately $1,500 a month in increased repayments, whilst those Kiwi investors had zero growth in their wages. But then when you compare this to Australia, guys, and I know we all get salty about immigration, but the Australian government kept the migration high. They also kept negative gearing alive, while the dumb Kiwi government temporarily took that away. And also in Australia, CGT, capital gains tax discounts, were untouched. And most importantly, the banks were still lending, and the RBA, even though you say, oh, they did a pretty bad job during the pandemic to, the 13 interest rate hikes to what we're experiencing right now, compare this to the RBNZ, which is the New Zealand version of the RBA. The RBA here are pro golfers, while those guys over there, they're like putt amateurs.
So what do I do? Just aim for the pond?
No, you're not supposed to hit it into the water.
And I know I say this a lot about the mobs in Canberra, but to give them credit where credit is given, they're still juicing demand with schemes like the 5% deposit guarantee that was introduced 3 years ago. And in 2026, they're going to remove income cap for the first home guarantee scheme. You see, this is keeping up demand. And with limited supply, this keeps up the property market up. Now, to quote Cameron Braggy from Braggy Economics, He says, quote, the speed and scale of New Zealand's policy changes really amplified their downturn. Whilst for Australia, it's more of a gradual approach and has avoided the same shock to demand, end quote. And right now to offer a counter view, Bernard Hickey from the Kaka, he says, quote, Australia's strength is a mirage. Policies keeping prices up also keep housing unaffordable for the younger generation. And it's not a better model, just a different set of problems, end quote. And from these both sides, this is my take, guys. Australia's not perfect. I agree. I always roast Australia. But it's not broken like New Zealand. And right now, I'm guiding my New Zealand clients with the help of buyer's agents and accountants and different financial planners so that they can have an independent, unbiased view. These clients are currently buying in metro suburbs in Australia with high rental demand, strong cap rates, and long-term resilience. But I know that you folks that are watching this in New Zealand right now and you're scratching your head and go, hey Q, what if I'm stuck in New Zealand with a sinking portfolio? What the heck do I do? Well, this leads into the fourth part of my video. This is my non-financial advice for the New Zealand property market. And don't worry, there's no paywall. I'm going to drop this free lesson right now for you. And number one, guys, number one, stop emotional holding. If your property has dropped by 20% and the fundamentals of this property are weak, for example, bad yield, bad capital growth, I'm not suggesting, but it's a no-brainer. Don't wait for the market to come back. Don't do that out of pride like, oh, Kiwi pride, I bought this, I'm gonna hold on even though the ship is sinking. Tip number 2, start to consolidate your debt smartly. Rather than shotgun approach and sell everything, I want you to look at your property portfolio and only sell the one that is underperforming. And from there, whatever you can salvage from the capital or the net profit from the sale, use that money to clear the debt on the rest. Like right now, as you're facing the New Zealand property crash or the New Zealand correction crash, create some breathing room for yourself. Clear some debt, guys. And the third tip, guys, is, and I know it will sound kind of biased, but start to diversify across borders. So right now, if you can live or work part-time in Australia, start planting the capital here. And the final tip, guys, tip number 5 is, I want you to shift to a yield-driven strategy. Like, for example, if you're in New Zealand at the moment, I want you to hunt high-yield regional hubs that currently has big infrastructure spend. I don't want you at the moment to chase capital gains. And bonus tip, guys, play the tax game. Like in Australia at the moment, negative gearing still exists. And in New Zealand, if you can't work here, well, I want you to use allowable deductions to optimize your rent. I mean, that's the least you can do right now. Like to quote Nick Goodall from CoreLogic New Zealand, he says, quote, investors who realign their portfolios now towards yield and resilience will be better placed for the next upswing, end quote. But of course, to counter that, David Whitburn from New Zealand PIF, he says, quote, selling now locks in losses. If you can still hold and cash flow it, history shows prices will eventually recover, end quote. And from looking from both sides of these two experts, this is my take, guys. Don't cling to wreckage, guys, just because you built it. I want you right now to pivot, reposition, and redeploy. Otherwise, listen to old mate David Whitburn and get stuck for a decade. Now that's really Whitburn. But all in all, guys, in the end, New Zealand's crash is simply a warning for us Aussies over here. Don't treat it like a death sentence. However, if you're a Kiwi stuck in the storm or already working in Australia and want to capitalize on our market, I want you to ask yourself this question. Do you want to stay in the system that failed you, or do you want to learn how to beat it? If you do, I suggest you either book a 15-minute strategy call or a 60-minute deep dive with me for me to build a holistic lending strategy and combine with my independent financial advisors, my independent accountants, and my independent buyers agents for us to build an A-game property portfolio for you that will help you beat the generational poverty curse in your family and help you build real generational wealth. But hey guys, if you're not ready, just hit the like button, hit the follow button for more videos like this, and most importantly, smash the share button, share this knowledge to your mate because knowledge is power. And until next time, I'll see you in another episode of That Property Roast.
And bye-bye. Nana.